Alright, in this video we're going to go over all of the oaks we covered in class so far, except for sawtooth and southern red oak. We're going to start off with mountain chestnut in the top left here, swamp chestnut in the center, and then chinkapin on the right. Swamp chestnut does not have a pubescent underside, but mountain chestnut does not have a pubescent underside. Swamp does. Very soft. More striped rattlesnake looking buds. Get a little bit closer, you can see that better. Then the swamp chestnut. Mountain that has more rattlesnake bud than swamp chestnut. Same color though, and then chinkapin over here has the callus tip point, unlike the other two, and has darker buds with white pubescence. Hope you can see that there on the bud. And it's generally a darker bud with the white pubescent on top. You can even see it from the shape of the leaf that it comes to a full point sawtooth, unlike the other two. The only difference on the edge for swamp versus mountain normal chestnut oak is just a bit harder, more calloused edge than the mountain chestnut. A bit more floppy on the mountain, and the swamp has, let's see, more callous tip. And you can almost feel the vein popping out to that point, where you don't feel that at all on the mountain. So that's the quick review of those three. Sorry if the camera wasn't in the perfect shot. I'm going to be taking another video later when we get 6 more oaks added. Quickly, I'm going to put in bur oak because it has leaves that almost the same size, but even bigger than a swamp chestnut and mountain chestnut, but it has true lobes. There's a picture of one in the slides that has a full connected lobes on the front, but on the tree you'll see there'll be actual lobes, and they're just huge leaves. Quick shot of the buds. Just keep them down there. A little bit lighter than swamp chestnut and mountain. Still a bit of that rattlesnake striping going on. You can see that, but it has that pubescence in there. And then the underside of the leaf there, yellowish, where the swamp chestnut is white. They're both pubescent. So if you pick them off the ground in the winter, you should still feel a little bit of that. It won't be completely smooth, but both of them are pubescent with lobes, and it's huge than it is the bur oak. All right, let me catch my breath there. I have the white oak in here as well, Quercus alba, right there. You can see it in comparison to the mountain, normal chestnut, and swamp. And then bur oak. Bur oak is just huge leaves in comparison to the white oak. Much longer, for Quercus alba keeps a more compact oval shape. Whew. All right. We'll take a little shot of the buds. I didn't try too hard on the specimen, so we'll see if there's any real buds on there. Much smaller buds. And at this scale, you really can't see any striping on it. Acute base, which if I don't get to it later, the southern red oak, which I don't have with me right now, has a U-shaped bottom, and cherry bark has that acute B shape. Just want to put that in there since I forgot to put it in the other videos. Whew. We haven't gone over this one yet, but blue jack oak looks kind of like willow. Just going out there. But willow does not have that white underside, pubescent white underside that blue jack has. There is no relation, and at least the look of them, between blue jack and blackjack. Blackjack has much huger trilobe leaves. Blue jack, I think, likes sandier soils, I think is what that said. And then willow, not the same. Willow also seems to be much denser leafing, if you can see it there. And then we have live oak to the right. Much more ovate, oval-shaped leaves than either one of them. Dark, and then you should also be able to find acorns pretty easily over the fall with the acorn cap kind of covering half of it. Quick look at the buds, since we might have to do this later. The stem is pubescent on blue jack, which is convenient because the leaves are too. Very small. Let me get some more light in there. Very small, reddish brown buds. That pubescent stem, I think, will be a nice giveaway for having to do it just off the stem. And then willow, no pubescence on the stem. And trying to find a nice bud, and I don't really see them that well. Kind of get a shot of one there. Not really prepared to say any differences on them. Just gonna take some shots of them for you later. And then there's the live oaks bud in there. This might not be all that useful for you guys, I'm sorry. But you can tell from these skinnier leaves that they really don't have the bigger buds like these other guys. And I also got a water oak here. Very chewed up one, but here's some newer ones with the tridents. Very skinny in this example. They can get wider, like that one right there in shot. It takes the breath out of you. Very pubescent buds. Have a bit of a yellowish tip on them too. Much bigger too, as you can tell by the camera being able to pick them up too. Yellowish tip to them. All right. Yeah. That drainage too. And auxiliary hairs. Let's look at the auxiliary hairs of these other guys. Willow, I wouldn't expect to see it. Yeah, I don't really see it on the willow. And willow won't have any lobes. Live oak really shouldn't either, in the case it matters. There you go. No auxiliary hairs to be seen on this example of live oak. I will get a shot of all their acorns. Let me get that back in the order it was. Live oak acorn there. Very green. Very alive. Light green for willow. Kind of a third of it is covered by the cap. And then water oak has almost no cap. You can see that there between the two. Same kind of light green though. All right, now we're gonna move on to post oak and blackjack oak. Nothing is really like post oak. When we get to cherry here, I'll cherry and overcup. I'll put it on top so you can see. But if you see that that lobing where it makes that cross on the tree rather consistently, you can see it a bit on that one. You got a post oak. We haven't learned any others in class that would conflict with that. As far as I know, that's a pretty good example one too. But you're not going to get that perfect kind of cross there. And then there's post oak, and in case you're wondering, there's white oak over there. White oak really does not have that branching out to those 3 big points of the cross. I took this blackjack sample because normally it's a pretty reliable tree to identify. Nothing else has that fan out with the 3 lobes being all connected, kind of webbed together. But look at this. Some of its leaves can be more like the red oaks, or like the rest of the red oaks, I should say, and can have bristle tips. So I thought that was interesting. So definitely look around the tree. If it has this bigger leaf, you are safe. It should be a blackjack oak. But be aware, it can have lobing, so don't get caught on that if you see it. All right, now we're gonna get to overcup and cherry bark. Overcup and cherry bark both have white undersides. Cherry bark has pubescent undersides with that kind of splotching pattern on its pubescence that we saw in the Florida maple. And really no hairs at all on the overcup. Overcup distinct acorn. I do not have a cherry bark acorn, but you can look at pictures of that circling pattern. Quick shot of the buds for those looking for the bud pattern. I made another video with all of these last 5 together. I did not get didn't get any video of the blackjack buds. Let's see what we think of them here. Nothing that noticeable. Let me get in here. Nope. Nothing all that unique. I'll definitely be making another video later with all of them without any leaves on them when we get to that ID off of just twigs part of the class. Yeah, cherry bark, pagoda is the specific epithet. Really just go off that pubescence. If it's got that pubescence, nothing else is pubescent like it. Post oak doesn't have anything like that. None of these other red oaks we've covered so far have that pubescence. Yeah, look at that. If you remember, if you ever looked at some of those Florida maple leaves, it will have that splotching from that pubescence kind of wearing away at certain points. Now to get to the pagoda part. If you look across the tree, you should see the right angle of the pagoda. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, making the shape of a pagoda building. Now, not all of them are gonna have it very clear. This one kind of has the right angles at the bottom, and it loses it up on those second ones here. But across it, you should kind of see that this one's curled. It's not as clear, but see a little bit better. And that's a curved leaf, so you can kind of lose that symmetry. But right angle. I don't know if I can push this guy back out hard. This one has a much larger last right lobe than this, but they're both right angles. So just think right angle, pagoda, cherry bark tree. Budding, I don't know if I said it before, some other one, but this is the prettiest bud. This is the prettiest bud of them all for me. We got yellow with the brown, mixed in yellowish, almost white. And then also, I think this is important since I said it for bluejack, the cherry bark has a pubescent stem. Not completely reliable. This one is a bit in the sun. And the more in the sun it is, I would believe it would have more pubescence. But that might be important later on in the semester. Very pretty yellow with the red bud, yellow popping out as it expands. Yeah, keep in mind that pubescent stem so you don't get it confused with bluejack if you just have the stems to go off of the sticks. Now we're going to get into Shumard, Scarlet, and Nuttall. And with the ones that we've had so far, this is the hardest part. So, the distinguishing factor that's reliable between Shumard and Scarlet is the auxiliary hairs. So, Scarlet has almost none, very occasional. You really don't see it on this example. There's the tiniest bit of them right in there, but that's not anything like what Shumard has here. Look into those, where those veins meet the midrib. It's just filled with those little hairs. At least from this sample too, it looks like Shumard is darker. And from the sample, it looks like Scarlet's bigger, but I wouldn't rely on that. Both of them have that C-shape sinus. But another good one is the buds, because Scarlet has that pubescence on it. So if you're really stuck, look for that pubescence on the bud, and I'll compare that to Shumard here. Shumard, come on, get in focus. It really does not like getting this one in focus. But overall, lighter bud on the Scarlet with that pubescence, and Shumard is just a more dull brown that goes in with the rest of the stem overall in color. To focus in there. There's a little bit of pubescence, but it just blends in with that stem a whole lot better, a lot duller. If you can, gotta look at those leaves, and it's got that auxiliary hair, it's much more likely to be Shumard. Now, how you tell Shumard and Scarlet apart from Nuttall? Nuttall comes to a distinct point much better than Shumard and Scarlet. Scarlet and Shumard have that fanning out of the last three lobes. Kind of see it there. Really can see it on Shumard, and much denser on the Shumard in this example. But Nuttall comes to the, it's like a little tree if you drew it out with a distinct point instead of fanning out at the end. Also has the auxiliary hairs, kind of similar C sinuses, so that's not a really reliable shape to go off of when you're trying to ID them, but less bristle tips, because it doesn't fan out as much at the end there. Acorns are going to look similar across both these guys. So budding, it would appear that Nuttall has almost no bud. Get into focus there, yeah. Unlike Scarlet and Shumard. All right, that's the best I can do for you guys now. Thank you for watching if you made it this far. And see you in class.